The most dangerous predator isn't a stranger lurking in dark alleys. It's someone who knows your habits, your weaknesses, and exactly how to exploit them. These are the stories of 6 individuals who paid the ultimate price for trusting the wrong person with their lives. It was September 18th, 2015, when what appeared to be a tragic accident would later reveal itself as one of the most calculated acts of domestic revenge ever documented. Grant Harrison, a 42-year-old insurance adjuster known for his weekend grilling obsession, had no idea his wife Alara was planning his demise. The 38-year-old part-time bookkeeper had discovered Grant's year-long affair and his systematic draining of their joint savings to fund secret getaways. That evening, the couple prepared their suburban deck for a gathering. Grant insisted on repositioning their heavy gas grill to create more space. What he didn't know was that Alara had spent the previous week loosening the deck railing brackets, replacing original bolts with shorter ones that would fail under pressure. Alvin Pierce, their 62-year-old retired mailman neighbor, had noticed Alara making touch-ups to the deck rail. Mia Torres, a 24-year-old landscaper, had noted the rail's instability a week prior while trimming hedges. As Grant maneuvered the 80-pound grill toward the corner, he braced his hip against the top rail for leverage. The compromised section immediately gave way, creating a 6-foot gap. Grant's 190-pound frame tumbled 12 feet down from the raised second-story deck, his head striking the stone border below with devastating force. The impact fractured his skull and compressed his chest against the rocks. The grill tipped forward and slid through the opening, landing on Grant and adding crushing weight to his catastrophic injuries. His skull cracked on impact, causing catastrophic brain and chest injuries from which he never regained consciousness. Alara screamed for help and called 911. Alvin rushed over, finding Grant motionless with blood pooling beneath his head. Emergency responders arrived within 8 minutes, but Grant had already succumbed to traumatic brain injury and internal hemorrhaging. Initially ruled accidental, the case turned sinister when a municipal inspector noticed fresh tool marks on the separated brackets. Security footage captured Alara working on the deck during Grant's absence. Forensic analysis later matched Alara's tool marks and partial fingerprints to the modified bolts. Investigation revealed Alara's discovery of Grant's infidelity through credit card statements, showing hotel charges for 2. She had found evidence of $47,000 transferred from their joint account to Grant's personal account over 6 months. Text messages between Alara and her sister revealed her growing rage and detailed revenge plans. One message chillingly stated that Grant would pay for his betrayal in the worst possible way. The prosecution argued that Alara deliberately weakened the railing, knowing Grant's habit of leaning against it while grilling. She had calculated the exact pressure needed to cause failure while maintaining plausible deniability. During the trial, Alvin's testimony about the suspicious touch-ups and Mia's observation of the loose rail provided crucial evidence. Forensic analysis proved the tampering was intentional and recent. Alara Harrison was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. The case became a textbook example of how domestic disputes can escalate into elaborate murder plots disguised as accidents. Grant's death serves as a chilling reminder that the most dangerous place isn't a dark alley, but your own backyard with someone you trusted most. It was June 22nd, 2016, when a scenic mountain overlook became the stage for one of the most vengeful acts of vehicular homicide ever recorded in Colorado. Holden Reed, a 35-year-old freelance graphic designer known for his calm demeanor and mountain photography, had arranged to meet his ex-girlfriend Indigo Frost at Devil's Curve. The 32-year-old real estate agent had been consumed with rage since their breakup 3 months earlier, blaming Holden for $23,000 in shared debts and public humiliation after he exposed her infidelity. Carla Nguyen, a 37-year-old road maintenance technician, had logged concerns about a compromised guardrail the previous month. But the report was filed away and never prioritized for repair. Nate Alvarez, a 29-year-old photographer positioned at an upper turnout, would provide the only witness account. Hikers had reported aggressive driving incidents near the same curve that week. The area's loose gravel shoulders created hazards that Indigo would exploit in her calculated revenge. Indigo had spent weeks planning, researching the weakened guardrail through public maintenance records. The breakup had devastated her life. Holden's revelation of her affair had cost her several listings and damaged her reputation. That evening, Holden's sedan approached where Indigo waited in her SUV. Phone records revealed she had been tracking his location, luring him there, claiming she wanted to return his belongings. As Holden slowed, Indigo accelerated aggressively, forcing him toward the compromised shoulder. His vehicle struck loose gravel at 35 miles per hour and, after a brief skid and impact from Indigo's SUV, surged to just over 40 miles per hour before he lost control. The car yawed toward the weakened guardrail, which deflected beyond its limits before failing completely. The barrier gave way as Holden's vehicle breached the edge into a ravine roughly 200 feet deep, filled with jagged rocks and pine trees. The vehicle rolled multiple times, each impact crushing the roof inward. A-pillars collapsed during the second roll. The third rotation flattened the driver's side. Holden sustained massive blunt force trauma as the car tumbled through brush and boulders. His skull fractured in multiple places, his chest cavity crushed, causing fatal internal bleeding and punctured lungs. Nate heard the impact and saw dust clouds rising. He called 911, providing GPS coordinates. His photographs captured the final moments and Indigo's SUV fleeing. Emergency responders accessed via a service road, but steep terrain complicated rescue efforts. They found Holden trapped in the compressed cabin with fatal injuries. Investigation initially focused on guardrail failure, but traffic cameras captured Indigo's aggressive pursuit. Her GPS data showed she had followed him for over an hour. Investigators discovered threatening texts Indigo sent to friends, describing fantasies about making Holden pay. One message mentioned the dangerous curves and how easy accidents could happen there. Indigo initially claimed she was nowhere near the mountain. However, her vehicle's GPS contradicted her story, showing she had driven the route multiple times before Holden's death. The prosecution argued Indigo orchestrated a vehicular ambush, using knowledge of road conditions and guardrail weakness to force Holden over the edge. Faced with overwhelming evidence, including matching tire marks, forensic analysts also identified paint transfer from Indigo's SUV on Holden's rear bumper, confirming contact before the crash. Indigo Frost pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter with aggravating intent and reckless endangerment. She received 15 years, with the judge noting the premeditated nature of her actions. Holden's death serves as a chilling reminder of how intimate knowledge and burning resentment can transform familiar places into deadly traps. It was January 11th, 2017, when what appeared to be a tragic workplace accident would later expose one of the most calculated acts of revenge ever committed in an industrial setting. Kellen Beckett, a 28-year-old inventory specialist known for his meticulous attention to safety protocols, had recently filed a complaint that would cost his life. Rowan Asher, a 34-year-old forklift operator with a volatile temper, had been seething after Kellen's complaint resulted in reduced hours and pending discipline. That morning, both men were assigned to reconcile inventory in aisle 4 of the distribution center. The corridor housed towering pallet racks stretching 30 feet high, loaded with heavy crates. Denise Holt, a 45-year-old shift supervisor, had previously flagged uneven stacking as hazardous. Omar Ruiz, a 33-year-old security guard, performed routine hourly walkthroughs that would later provide crucial timeline evidence. The warehouse had structural issues, including floor undulation near a drainage line awaiting repair. Unknown to Kellen, Rowan had spent the previous evening deliberately disturbing the storage configuration. Using his forklift access and knowledge of load distribution, he strategically loosened support connections and repositioned heavy crates to create an unstable domino effect. As Kellen walked beneath the high bay section, updating his scanner, Rowan triggered the collapse he had orchestrated. A critical support beam shifted laterally, causing massive crates to slide forward and strike a mid-level beam, redirecting tremendous force downward. The cascading failure propagated along several bays as connections snapped in rapid succession. Multiple containers, each weighing over 500 pounds, fell in a thunderous avalanche. A massive crate struck Kellen directly, driving him to the concrete floor. The primary impact crushed his thoracic cavity, fracturing multiple ribs and causing immediate internal bleeding. A second crate landed across his pelvis, causing devastating fractures and trapping him beneath debris. His breathing became labored as his punctured lungs filled with blood. Autopsy later confirmed traumatic asphyxia, marked by chest compression injuries, petechial hemorrhages, and massive internal bleeding. Denise heard the crash and activated the emergency alarm, directing evacuation of adjacent aisles. Omar rushed to the scene, using a pallet jack to clear lighter debris, desperately trying to reach Kellen. Emergency responders arrived within 12 minutes, but had to stabilize the remaining structure before attempting extraction. When paramedics finally reached him, Kellen had succumbed to traumatic asphyxia and massive internal hemorrhaging. Security cameras revealed suspicious activity in aisle 4 the previous evening. Footage showed Rowan making unauthorized adjustments to rack configurations after his shift ended, using an access card he was no longer cleared to have. Tool access logs indicated he had checked out maintenance equipment despite having no work orders. A structural engineer reconstructed the racking failure sequence, confirming deliberate misalignment of load-bearing supports. Investigation revealed Rowan's deep resentment toward Kellen. Co-workers described escalating arguments about safety procedures, and several recalled hearing Rowan make veiled threats toward him. The prosecution argued that Rowan used his knowledge of warehouse operations to create a death trap. His deliberate manipulation of load-bearing elements demonstrated clear premeditation. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Rowan Asher was convicted of second-degree murder and received a 25-year sentence with additional civil penalties. Kellen's death serves as a stark reminder that workplace disputes can escalate into deadly revenge when combined with intimate knowledge of industrial hazards. It was August 5th, 2017, when what appeared to be a tragic boating accident at a city marina would later reveal itself as one of the most sinister acts of maritime revenge ever documented. Lux Sinclair, a 31-year-old marine insurance adjuster known for his cautious nature and boat safety knowledge, had arranged to meet his ex-girlfriend Savannah Lee at the Outer Finger Docks to discuss their shared vessel. Savannah Lee, a 29-year-old yacht broker with a vindictive personality, had been consumed with rage since their bitter breakup 6 months earlier over a jointly owned sailboat worth $85,000. The marina's outer docks were known for challenging conditions during evening hours when boat traffic created dangerous wake patterns. Theo Briggs, a 58-year-old dockhand, had reported a sticky gate latch the previous week. Arya Patel, a 26-year-old harbor office assistant, had logged the after-hours access request. Savannah had spent weeks studying the marina's layout, tide schedules, and traffic patterns. Her yacht brokerage background gave her knowledge of how wake action could create deadly situations between hulls and docks. As dusk approached, Lux arrived at the slip where their 32-foot sailboat was moored. Savannah had arrived earlier and made deadly modifications to the mooring setup, loosening dock lines and repositioning fenders to create gaps. Most critically, she arranged a trailing line to create an entanglement hazard. When Lux stepped from the dock to the swim platform to adjust the stern line, Savannah's trap activated. A passing charter boat created a wake that lifted the stern and narrowed the gap. The platform rose and shifted laterally, exactly as calculated. Lux's foot slipped on the wet surface, and one leg entered the gap as the hull pressed against the dock edge. The trailing line immediately snagged around his calf, restricting movement as the boat rebounded. The hull compressed intermittently against the dock edge during wake cycles, causing repeated blunt impacts to Lux's lower torso and thigh. Each wave cycle brought the heavy fiberglass hull crushing against his trapped leg with thousands of pounds of force. Unable to free himself, Lux slipped into the water between boat and dock. The entrapment persisted, preventing him from surfacing effectively. He sustained severe contusions, a suspected tibia-fibula fracture, an increasingly ineffective respiratory effort as he struggled underwater. Autopsy confirmed drowning with diatom evidence in the lungs and bloodstream, consistent with live submersion. Savannah yelled for help, bringing Theo running with flotation equipment. Emergency responders worked frantically to cut the fouled line, but Lux had already succumbed to drowning with contributing blunt trauma. Marina security cameras captured Savannah's earlier arrival and suspicious activity around the mooring lines. Access logs confirmed she had requested after-hours access, claiming she needed personal items. Forensic technicians also recovered Savannah's fingerprints and fresh fiber residue on the adjusted lines. Investigation revealed Savannah's extensive planning. Her computer showed research into tide tables and traffic patterns, along with notes about dock configurations and mooring tension points. Coast Guard Marine safety officers assisted local police in reconstructing the sequence, citing deliberate interference with the mooring systems. Witnesses and colleagues later described her growing resentment over the boat dispute, noting that she often spoke bitterly about Lux and their unresolved ownership fight. The prosecution argued that Savannah used her professional knowledge to create a death trap, exploiting natural hazards against Lux. Her deliberate manipulation demonstrated clear premeditation. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Savannah Lee was convicted of second-degree murder and received a 20-year sentence. The tragic end of Lux Sinclair stands as a stark warning that familiarity breeds the deadliest form of danger, when someone who knows your world inside and out decides to turn that knowledge against you. It was March 27th, 2018, when what appeared to be a tragic industrial accident at a county fairground would later expose one of the most calculated acts of workplace revenge ever documented. Corbin Wilder, a 33-year-old equipment technician known for his commitment to safety protocols, had volunteered to stay after closing to assist with teardown. Penn Foster, a 41-year-old crane operator with a volatile temper, had been seething since Corbin publicly criticized his competence during a previous operation. The fairgrounds equipment yard was filled with heavy machinery and disassembled ride components. Lila Monroe, a 41-year-old rigging contractor, had posted reminders about securing counterweights before lifting operations. Eddie Park, a 39-year-old food vendor, had lingered to offer assistance. The evening's work involved moving heavy ride components using a mobile crane. A wind advisory noted intermittent gusts up to 25 miles per hour, creating additional challenges for precision lifting. Unknown to Corbin, Penn had deliberately failed to secure key locking pins in the crane's counterweight assembly, rendering it unstable during slewing. His knowledge allowed him to create a scenario that would appear accidental while ensuring maximum lethality. As the lifting operation began, Penn initiated the boom's slewing motion. The massive counterweight, weighing over 8,000 pounds, began to swing unexpectedly due to the incomplete retention Penn had sabotaged. A sudden wind gust altered the swing arc of the unsecured counterweight, transforming it into a deadly pendulum that traversed the staging area with devastating force. Corbin, communicating with another worker near the trailer, stepped directly into the swing path of the counterweight. His focus on coordinating the load made him unaware of the approaching danger. The 8,000-pound counterweight struck Corbin at chest height with the force of a wrecking ball, projecting his frame across the staging area onto the compacted gravel surface. The massive blow instantly crushed Corbin's thoracic cavity, fracturing multiple ribs and causing his chest wall to collapse inward. His sternum shattered from the direct impact, while his heart and lungs sustained catastrophic damage. Penn immediately initiated an emergency stop, while Lila rushed to stabilize the counterweight. Eddie sprinted to Corbin's motionless form, calling 911. Emergency responders arrived within 8 minutes, but Corbin's injuries were beyond survival. Paramedics found him with absent vital signs and evidence of massive internal trauma. Investigation revealed crane telemetry data showing suspicious patterns in the counterweight retention systems. Engineers reviewing telemetry noted abrupt, unexplained shifts in counterweight balance, inconsistent with normal operation. Radio recordings captured tense exchanges between Penn and Corbin about proper procedures. Penn had accessed the crane's counterweight assembly during his dinner break, using tools not required for his tasks. Security footage showed him working alone on retention mechanisms for over 20 minutes. Co-workers later told investigators that Penn had made dark remarks about how easily accidents could happen around cranes and counterweights. And several recalled hearing him joke that one mistake at the wrong time could end a person's life. The prosecution argued Penn used his crane operator expertise to create a death trap, deliberately compromising safety systems. Equipment analysis confirmed the retention failure was due to deliberate sabotage. OSHA investigators concluded that the retention failure resulted from intentional tampering rather than equipment fatigue. Faced with overwhelming evidence, including telemetry data, radio recordings, and digital communications, Penn Foster was convicted of second-degree murder and received a 25-year sentence. Corbin's death led to enhanced safety protocols, including mandatory double verification of retention systems and expanded exclusion zones during crane operations. It was November 3rd, 2016, when what appeared to be a tragic hiking accident at a coastal cliff overlook would later reveal itself as one of the most sinister acts of revenge disguised as nature's cruelty. Briar Wells, a 27-year-old freelance nature photographer known for her adventurous spirit, had arranged to meet her former business partner, Zoe Carmichael, at the remote overlook to photograph migrating seabirds. Zoe Carmichael, a 30-year-old marketing consultant with a vindictive personality, had been consumed with rage since their business partnership dissolved 6 months earlier over accusations that Briar stole her original photography concept. The coastal cliff trail was notorious for unstable edges, made worse by recent storms that had undercut portions of the bluff. Hank Duran, a 54-year-old park ranger, had posted temporary erosion warnings following the damage. Lin Vo, a 31-year-old dedicated bird watcher, had been documenting frequent rockfall sounds on volunteer report forms that would later provide crucial evidence. The meeting was ostensibly about returning shared photography equipment, but Zoe had spent weeks researching the cliff's geological instability, studying erosion reports, and identifying the most dangerous sections. Recent storms had severely undercut the bluff, creating hidden fracture lines invisible from the surface, but making the edge extremely unstable. As the afternoon progressed, Briar set up her equipment near the official viewing area. Zoe began steering their conversation toward a narrow, unofficial path that extended beyond posted safety signage. Using knowledge of Briar's competitive nature, Zoe suggested the rock arch would provide a spectacular backdrop, emphasizing how the dramatic angle would set Briar's work apart. Briar, focused on capturing the perfect shot, stepped onto the narrow, unofficial path to angle her camera toward the rock arch formation. The seemingly solid ground was actually a thin layer covering a significant void created by erosion. The cliff face gave way along a concealed fracture beneath the surface crust, sending Briar plunging toward the rocks below. She attempted to regain footing on loose scree, but the unstable material provided no purchase. The descent included multiple impacts on protruding rock ledges, each collision causing severe blunt force trauma. Her camera equipment scattered during the fall, tumbling alongside her toward the rocky shoreline below. Autopsy later documented catastrophic injuries consistent with an 80-foot fall, including multiple skull fractures, spinal compression, and internal bleeding from rib fractures that punctured vital organs. Zoe screamed for help and called emergency services. Hank responded with rescue equipment, but the remote terrain and rough surf delayed extraction efforts. It took over an hour for rescue teams to reach Briar's position. and by then, the combination of traumatic injuries and exposure had proven fatal. Digital correspondence later confirmed Zoe's weeks of preparation, including her review of Park Service reports that identified erosion-prone sections. Forensic geotechnical specialists matched fresh soil displacement and overlapping boot prints near the fracture zone, confirming that both women had been at the unstable edge moments before the collapse. The prosecution argued that Zoe deliberately guided Breyer to the most dangerous section, using knowledge of terrain instability and Breyer's professional ambitions to create a deadly scenario. Faced with overwhelming digital evidence, Zoe Carmichael was convicted of manslaughter and received a 10-year sentence. The fatal fall of Breyer Wells demonstrates how even the most scenic locations can be transformed into killing grounds by someone who understands both the terrain and their victims' vulnerabilities. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now